Hello everyone, thanks for tuning in to today's second video doing USA forecast. So today's second video, so it's on a Wednesday, having a look at the weather for the next 10 to 14 days for the United States. We'll be able to extend out beyond that with the CFSV2 as well. That runs to around 4 weeks, so we'll have a look in a second and see what's going on. So I'll go with that for you in a moment. Just say, but first video release was our 7 AM forecast. Also got a 10 to 14 day with all of the regular features coming up later on this afternoon for the UK and for Europe. And then tonight we've got our second sneaky peeky for Christmas 2021. So did the first Christmas sneak peek a couple of weeks ago. So update number 2, or sneak peek number 2, will be released at 7 PM this evening. It's going to be an entertaining watch, I think. So make sure you're around for that one. Right, okay, please like, share, subscribe on all of the videos. Thank you so much, everybody, for doing that. And we'll crack on then. So I'm going to start in the tropical Atlantic. Now, the 2021 Atlantic hurricane season shutdown continues. Again, from the National Hurricane Center, we see tropical cyclone activity is not expected during the next 48 hours. So the quiet period that we're currently in after a very, very active few weeks. But we have had a bit of shutdown over the past sort of week or two, and that continues. So no tropical cyclone activity expected in the next 48 hours. Let's move over to tropical tidbits, and we'll see whether the latest GFS run is expecting or forecasting any development. So just so you know where everything is, this is like the east coast of the United States just here. That is Florida. Just there, we've got the Gulf Coast just here. Gulf of Mexico is there. The Caribbean is here. And this is the wider water of the tropical Atlantic just there. Right, okay, so you know where everything is. That's how we're starting off at the moment. No sign of any sort of development areas in the tropical Atlantic, Gulf of Mexico or Caribbean. Let's run through them. The next few days continue to be quite quiet, but you notice pressure. This is mean cell pressure, so you'll notice pressure is sort of falling in the Gulf of Mexico and also in the Caribbean area. So you know, nothing developing at that point, but pressure is weakening slightly. Now we get through to the 26th of October, which is next Tuesday. We have got an area of low pressure then developing in the Caribbean. That might be a tropical storm beginning to appear there. That develops a little bit more and pushes northwards as we go up to around the 27th of October. Doesn't look like that's going to make it to a hurricane, but it might develop into a tropical storm. It is sort of merging with another area of low pressure just here that's moving in off the moving into the Atlantic off the east coast of America. So that does deepen a little bit. That might be like a weak hurricane, category 1 hurricane there by the time we get through to the 28th of October. Otherwise, again, nothing really happening in the tropical Atlantic, Caribbean or Gulf of Mexico area. There's a very deep area of low pressure through the United States at that point. Now, this low from America does sort of move down in towards Florida as we get to the end of October. This is Saturday, the 30th of October. The area of low pressure has moved down from sort of inland America towards Florida. That's heading into the warm waters of the Atlantic. So that might develop into a system. It isn't like an area of low pressure here off the southeastern coast of America. That might be another tropical storm. At the same time, we've got an area of low pressure developing here. So it does look as though things are going to start livening up a little bit more again by the time we get through to the end of October. There's nothing definitive there to suggest a hurricane at the moment, but certainly there's going to be more disturbance areas and more potential possibilities, if you see what I mean, for developments at the end of October and into the beginning of November. That's as far as we go to the 5th of November. At that point, starting to look rather quieter again, although there is an area of low pressure just there, and maybe a bit of weakness around the Caribbean as well. So there's disturbance areas on the way, I think, for the end of October. We may get up to a tropical storm or a hurricane as well, sometime around the end of the month. No direct impacts on the United States by the look of it. Yeah, but there is like an area of low pressure that develops around Florida. I think, you know, that'll just be an area of low pressure then. If it does develop into a tropical storm or hurricane, it'll be in the Atlantic as it moves away from Florida. But yeah, you know, it's very quiet at the moment. It looks like things will liven up a little bit. I think we're about one more major hurricane away from like a hyperactive season being officially declared at the moment. For ACE, for accumulated cyclone energy, we're at above average, but we're short of hyperactive. I think we need one more sort of major hurricane to get us to a hyperactive season. There's no sign of that up to this point, but this only gets to the 5th November, and hurricanes can kick off well into November. So we'll just wait and see. Just wait and see. But it looks like end of October will be a little bit more livelier anyway. Right, looking at the wider United States, so this is how the GFS upper air temperature and precipitation ensembles are looking. We're looking at Chicago today. So the red line is the 30-year upper air temperature average for Chicago. The warm autumn goes on, the warm fall continues. Upper air temperatures are significantly above average at the moment. They're going to fall away a little bit over the next few days, but then we're going to rise up again through next week. So it's going to become very warm through the course of next week, before perhaps dropping away as we get through into the opening days of November. Generally, it's going to be a warmer than average couple of weeks, though, for Chicago, as it will be for many parts of America. A lot of dry weather to come over the next few days. Well, although there could be some showers involved with this cool down over the next few days. Very wet as we get through into the end of the weekend and the start of next week. That's a massive precipitation spike from a significant area of low pressure that will be moving across the Midwest and into eastern parts of America, and also southern parts of America, actually, through the course of next week. And then more wet weather, really, as we go through the end of October into the start of November. Does look like things turn much more unsettled. But for the temperature side, it is going to remain pretty warm, I think, overall. So this is the temperature anomaly for the United States for next week. It's from the 20th to 28th of October. You see most areas are warmer than average, significantly so. Really, it's just in the far west that we see some colder than average temperature, particularly focused on northern California, interestingly. But the west coast does look generally a little bit cooler. But other than that, it's just a sea of red, really, especially through like the central southern states and then over towards the eastern and midwestern states, very substantially above average again. So the warm fall goes on. And precipitation-wise, look like that. So varying from area to area, the southwest looks very dry through those desert states of like Arizona and so on. Then we get a wetter swathe through the Midwest. So we saw on the Chicago ensemble that they're going to get some very wet weather early next week, over the weekend into next week. And we see that with the above average rainfall there through the Midwestern states. Some of that extending over to the east, but actually to the eastern side, but actually the east coast itself does look relatively dry away up from Florida to those northeastern states. The wettest weather, though, is in the west and in the northwest. So it looks really wet in this Pacific northwestern area, and particularly, again, the northern and central parts of California. Now, this is a little bit unusual for California, and it's kind of thing you would associate more, actually, with El Nino. We haven't got El Nino, we've got La Nina, interestingly, which you would not expect for central western parts of America to be like a drier signal. But anyway, there is going to be some very, very useful rain, because it's very dry generally, but there's going to be some very, very useful rain for parts of California, particularly northern California, over the next week. And all of that wet weather does extend northwards as well. Right, so this is how the GFS is currently looking then for today. We've got a ridge down in the southeast. That's bringing lots of warmth into central and eastern parts of America. Low pressure off the Pacific coast moving into the northwest. The upper air temperatures look like that. Generally, it is significantly warmer than average across most parts of America. This low here is pulling in something a little bit cooler from Canada. But other than those, that limited area, those states there, other than that, it's generally a warm sort of day again across many parts of America. Over the next few days, we keep things pretty much going like this. So there is going to be a ridge extending down from Canada into these northern states. That will pull something perhaps a little bit cooler into these far northern and northeastern states. But overall, it looks generally quite warm, really, through to the weekend. Low pressure out to the northwest will bring more unsettled and wetter weather into those western and northwestern states. Then this deep area of low pressure starts moving in from the Pacific. That's the deluge, I think, of the west coast, and particularly for like northern California northwards, all the way up to Washington state. That's that low pressure there will bring some very significant rain from the Pacific into those western states. At the same time, this low just here developing around the Midwest is starting to push eastwards. That's what's bringing the deluge to the Midwest. That will bring some very heavy rain to, as we've already seen, Chicago and other western states. At the same time, we've got this ridge in the east that will keep eastern coastal areas quite dry and pretty warm as well. Into the middle part of next week, that's how long. It's still very warm scene with the upper air temperatures, to be honest. Coolest upper air temperature out in the west and in the northwest, and possibly from the far northeast. But through the Midwest, it looks very warm, and this warmth is extending eastwards as well. So, yes, it is more unsettled through the early part of next week, across central parts of America in particular. But it remains a really warm scene. The warm sort of fall goes on. Middle of next week, again, we've got this low pressure sort of elongating down through the central states. That brings some very wet weather from the north to the south as that area of low pressure pushes eastwards. That's an active front, actually. So there's probably a cold front through there, and that stretches right way down from like the north, from Canada, all the way down to the Gulf Coast of south. So that will be a very significant band of rain push through. Behind that, it will turn cooler. Winds will go into the north, but ahead of it, of course, we're drawing up a very warm southerly wind. Meanwhile, out in the west, it's probably starting to dry up a little bit as this ridge begins to build, turning a little bit drier and warmer for those western states. Heading up towards day 10, that area of low pressure then sort of sinks down. The cold front will develop an area of low pressure that sinks down into Florida. Same time, high pressure will build in behind it, bring a return of mainly dry, but probably somewhat cooler weather. That's how the upper air temperatures look at day 10, which is the 30th of October. It's still generally quite a warm scene really across most parts of America. It turned a bit colder in the northwest, though. In the extreme range, this area of low pressure digs in from Canada as we get through into the beginning of November. That does bring a shot of colder air in from Canada. This is a long way out, though. This is the 1st of November. But then we do start to bring something colder into the northern and mid-western states with those northern winds. Look how much colder the upper air temperatures look all of a sudden by the beginning of November. There is a shot of winter. I think it's only brief, though, and then that low pressure pushes back up towards Canada and Newfoundland and gets out of the way. High pressure returns from the south. We finish up pretty much back where we are right now, with high pressure in the east and the southeast. And again, we're dragging up generally quite warm winds from the south and from the southwest. Upper air temperatures by the end of the GFS run on the 5th of November look like that. Generally quite mild. So very briefly, around the opening day or so of November, there is a shot of colder air into the Midwest and the north, and eventually into the northeast. But it is very quickly pushed back to Canada by warmer air returning from the south. ECM, Euro looks like this. Again, all much of a muchness over the next few days. We've got this deep area of low pressure moving in from the Pacific into these western parts of America. At the same time, there's an area of low pressure through the Midwest and into the east that will bring unsettled conditions as well. Over the weekend, that's how we're looking inside of next week. Again, lots of low pressure in the Pacific. Looks very unsettled for this western, northwestern coast. Plenty of rain to come from northern California northwards. Low pressure through the central midwestern states. High pressure through the east, maintaining generally quite a warm scene across most parts of America through the early part of next week. That's how the upper air temperatures look on Tuesday. Coolest weather is in the west and in the northwest. Otherwise, it's very warm across most parts of the United States. The warm autumn fall continues. Into the middle of next week, again, the high pressure sort of slips eastwards, draws up the air from the south, so it is going to remain quite warm with this area of low pressure pushing through the Midwest. That will bring heavy rain and or thunderstorms, and eventually start to cool things down a little bit through the Midwest as well. Meanwhile, the eastern coast continues with those warm southerlies, and as we head up towards day 10, that's how we've got a trough of low pressure then through these eastern and southeastern states. As that trough of low moves into the Atlantic, it might develop into a tropical storm as it meets the warmer waters of the tropical Atlantic Ocean here off the Carolina coast, for example. But just generally looks very unsettled at this point through these eastern and southeast states with trough of low pressure. A little bit cooler as well, but not particularly cold up to daytime. That's how the upper air temperatures look. Hottest temperatures then upper and surface temperatures out in the west and also in the far east and northeast. A little bit cooler here with this trough of low pressure, but not cold, you know, up to 30th of October. There's no sign from the ECM that we pull in anything particularly cold from the north. Just have a look at CFSV2 before we go. So these are 500 millibar heights broken down into week periods. The first week period will take us from the 19th to 25th of October. The coming week we'll have a ridge over on the eastern side of America. This deep area of low pressure in the west of the Pacific coast will bring much cooler and also significantly much wetter weather to those western and northwestern areas. I think it's quite typical for the northwest, like Washington State. Quite typical for there, a little bit more unusual though to extend this trough down into California. Week 2 is going to be the 26th of October to the 1st of November, still looking really wet on the west coast with the trough low pressure there. Meanwhile, high pressure in the east and the northeast will maintain like a southerly flow through many parts of Central and Eastern America, so the warm weather goes on into week 3, which is the 2nd to the 8th of November. Then we just generally get a big ridge extending across much of America from the west all the way to the east. That could be a little bit colder, I would have thought. Then quite a significant change to week 4. This is for 9th to 15th of October. Then we get a ridge in the west, which is something we haven't seen for a while, and a trough of low pressure in the east and the northeast. Of course, that trough will start to pull in colder air through the Midwest and into the east. So that could be a little bit of winter through the second week of November. Temperature anomalies looking generally above average away from this western coastal area. Above average temperatures really in most parts of America in the week here. Look how warm week 2 is away from the west coast. This was 26th of October to 1st November. It is colder than average on the west coast, but you know, through the central Rocky Mountain states right way over to the east coast, it does look exceptionally warm in that week, particularly through like the Midwest in particular. Still generally significantly above average temperatures for week 3 as well, 2nd to the 8th of November. Most parts of America looking very warm then, particularly again in the east and in the northeast. But a change to week 4, so if you want a bit of winter and you're in the east and northeast America, 9th to 15th of November shows a bit of a switcheroo as things get warmer in the west but start to get colder over there in the east. Could that be the first real shot of winter through those eastern, midwestern and northeastern states, I wonder. And then precipitation-wise, finally, so week 1, 19th, 25th of October, so very significantly wetter than average up the west coast from northern California all the way up to Canada. Otherwise, generally quite dry with a ridge of high pressure dominating, especially in the east. Week 2 will be the 26th of October to 1st of November. Still dry in the far northeast, but otherwise it is turning wetter from the west. Looks like that's extending eastwards into many parts of America, so a little bit of a wetter week there to end October. Week 3 goes back to drier weather, 2nd to the 8th of October. Most areas are going drier then once again. And then week 4 is looking like that. It's the 9th to 15th of November. Again, generally on the drier side through many areas. Notice by this point, looks like we've got a swathe of wetter weather from like the southern Gulf of Mexico into the Caribbean and possibly clipping into Florida and heading northwards. Could that be the CFS picking up on some sort of major hurricane developing there in the second week of November? I don't know if the CFS is quite capable of that, but yeah, it looks like things go wetter through like the tropical Atlantic there, and the Gulf Coast, and or the southern part of the Gulf Coast, and into the Caribbean too. That's a very long way off, though, of course. Right, okay, so that's the USA forecast. So the basic upshot is that the shutdown in the hurricane season goes on for the time being. Things might start to reactivate by the end of October. We'll wait and see about that. And otherwise, just the very warm autumn, very, very warm fall, the United States has been experiencing so far, that goes on for the time being as well. There may be a shot of slightly colder air around the beginning of November, but otherwise winter held at bay for the time being. Eventually it'll bite though, of course, but for now, winter is held off. Right, okay, that's it for USA forecast. This week we'll do it all over again next Wednesday. We're going to be back shortly with a 10 to 14 dayer for the UK, so come back for that. But for this week's USA forecast, that's all for now, and thanks for watching.